Welcome to the 111 Approach podcast, your go-to space for deep thoughts, real talk, and exploration of everything from spirituality to self-development and the mysteries of life with some light-hearted humour along the way. I'm your host, Lakshmi, aka the 1 Minute Healer, and each episode will dive into different topics, sometimes personal, sometimes thought-provoking, but always authentic. So whether you're here for some new perspectives, inspiration, or just a fresh take on the world with a bit of randomness thrown into the mix, you're definitely in the right place. So what are you waiting for? Let's get into it. Hi, it's Lakshmi here, and before we start this week's episode, I need your help. Next year, I am taking on the biggest charity challenge I've ever done. Now, for those of you who know me well, you know I love to do things for charity ever since I was a child, from sponsored dance-a-thons, sponsored silences. Yes, I know, hard to believe me being quiet, right? Sponsored abseilings down buildings, and last year, even sleeping out on the streets of London in the middle of October in just a sleeping bag. I really try and push and immerse myself in things to raise money for good causes. And next year, I am climbing Mount Kilimanjaro for not one, but two amazing children's charities. Cordwell Children, who help disabled and autistic children all over the world, and Cordwell Youth, who empower at-risk adults aged 11 to 24. Now, this is the biggest challenge I've ever taken on because, number one, the target I need to hit is the biggest one to date. I need to raise £5,000, all of which goes to the charities, because actually the trip and expedition itself is self-funded. But hey, if you're a business and would like to sponsor that side of it, please get in touch with me. And number two, I've never climbed a mountain in my life. Although I did make up my mind at age 5 that I did find a mountain in Canada and claimed it as my own. But that's a story for another day. So please, if you are able to make a donation, no matter how big or small, it will really help me reach that target. And I will be forever grateful to you, as will the children who the money will go to. So thank you again. The link will be in the show notes below, and enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the 111 Approach podcast with me, Lakshmi, aka the 1 Minute Healer. And as always, I insist on starting every single episode and ending every single episode on gratitude. Why? Because gratitude is the most powerful frequency and emotion on this planet. And so if you don't have an attitude for gratitude, I suggest you get one very quickly, because it will change your goddamn life. Anyway, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you today to the stage another guest I have, who's very kindly come on to speak about their experiences and their expertise. And it's my pleasure to introduce the man, the legend, that is Dominic Borsberry, who is, in fact, a hypnotherapist and an NLP trainer who coaches his clients to remove anxieties, OCD addictions, and massively increase self-confidence, helping their businesses, personal life, and relationships all round. So, Dominic, thank you so much for coming on as a guest. I think we I think you reached out to me, didn't you, on one of my platforms?
Yes, I think we connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's right. So I am on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it, I'm on it. So yeah, no, I think Dominic had seen some of my content. He reached out because I think you said it was, you quite liked what I was talking about and it was quite aligned. So I wanted to say thank you for actually reaching out, and not many people do, because people just look at your content, scroll, they don't even hit that like button or engage or anything. So it's sometimes, as a content creator, you do feel like, is anybody even listening or watching, or does this even resonate with someone? So thank you first and foremost for taking that extra step to reach out. I really appreciate it, and I'm really excited to have you on as a guest, because from our conversation we had after your initial contact, I just found your story and your insights so fascinating. I was like, I need to have this man on my show. Would you be able to, firstly, before we get into all of that nitty-gritty stuff, give us a little bit of your origin story, how you came to be where you are and what you do?
Hi, thanks very much, Lakshmi. Thank you so much. Yes, so I'm from Liverpool and Birmingham. Father's from Birmingham, mother's from Liverpool. My mother, after my father, got involved in a relationship with somebody who was an alcoholic and an abusive. So we then had that situation going on for quite a few years in Liverpool. Because of that situation, I had to leave Liverpool at the age of 12. come down to Solihull, where my dad lives, which is great. I'm grateful that I had a father in Birmingham, because what would have happened otherwise, because of the dangerous situation. And my father, I think I've modelled him a little bit. He was very strict, had a Liverpool accent, fish out of water, didn't like it, wasn't that happy as a child, but I really rate my dad and realised why he was so strict. He was instilling discipline into me. And one thing that my dad has got loads of, he says what he means and he means what he says. And that links into some of our conversation we had lately about form and substance. Not just form, not just substance. It's both. There's a balance there. And when I left school, one of my biggest goals, I got myself into the Royal Marine Commandos. And I'm proud to say I failed.
You
Some of your
failed?
Yeah, some of your listeners may say, "Oh my God, he's proud to say that." I was embarrassed initially, but no excuses. But it did teach me one thing about this: it's all about mentality, not the muscle. So I learned a great deal in that, and then eventually found my way to what I do now, university, and helping lots of people, should we say, probably about 1,000 people now, in various relationship issues they have. And one of the big things I want to talk about, today, and we agreed to mention this, is there's three areas that every human is concerned with: your relationships, your health, your wealth / career. Coming back to relationships, the biggest relationship is with ourselves. And I mentioned to you when I was in Solihull as a teenager, and I love saying this to my women clients: you look outside, I had daylight phobia. That's how low my confidence was. And going back into that, my mother was my first client at the age of 5. She doesn't like me saying that, helping her through that situation, but that taught me a great deal about resilience and understanding that relationships are a two-way system. They're a two-way system. You can't just have givers and takers. You have to give and take in a relationship. And you've got to be empathetic. You've got to attempt to understand the other person. And coming back to what you said about, thank you for not just scrolling past your fantastic, amazing stuff I saw on social media. Well, I've also got a motto from my father: the devil is in the detail. Pardon the expression. It's not just form. I'm particularly interested in the detail. And I think sometimes we tend to overlook the details because we just want the perfection, especially on social media.
Exactly. And thank you so much. I mean, you've raised, just in that, 3 minutes of talking, you've raised so many important points and topics, which, I really want to delve into a little deeper. Let's just backtrack a little bit. First and foremost, you said the devil's in the details. I think this is where we really both agreed very heavily on the fact that nowadays, with things like social media, we have become so accustomed to having everything in perfection, not just aesthetics in terms of the way it's been imposed on how we should look. I
Yeah.
mean, I'll be honest, women have been suffering from that from flipping day one.
Yeah. Definitely.
Everything has been designed to make, and I'd love to get the male perspective on this, but the more
Yeah.
and more I delve into it, and my sister recommended reading a book called Ugly. I'll find out who the author is and I'll put it in the show notes. But
Okay.
that's, although it's catered to South Asian women, it actually is just a whole history about how since the beginning of time, women have just been like groomed so much as in to say, well, you're not good enough, you don't look this way, this is how you're supposed to act, look, feel, talk,
Yeah.
behave. And I get, like, now with social media, men too have that kind of, now I've got to go to the gym, I've got to look like this, I've got to do this. And there was that whole kind of world of that came through about, I forgot, is it in cells or something? There was that program on Netflix about these men who don't feel good enough, and that's why they lash out at women. But that's, I feel like, is a bit more recent, whereas the women's idea of the aesthetics and what they need to be looking like runs a little bit deeper. But equally, both are important to talk about. but not just on that level of how we look day to day, but just in terms of the content that we're putting out as well. It's now expected to be all bells and whistles, okay, HD, smooth transitions, trending audio, da 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 da. And
Yeah.
it's like what used to make me feel really good about like creating fun, humorous content with the underlying real essence of what we need to discuss here and awareness. It's just made me like curl up in a ball and be like, oh, my content's not good enough because I don't have all the fancy schmancy things. In fact, it reminded me of someone that I know who follows me on Instagram, who's also a content creator.
Yeah.
When my sister, I welcome feedback, and my sister's quite good at telling me, oh, listen, look at me, your videos look a little bit grainy. Why don't you try changing some of the settings? And when she showed me how to do that, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like now my phone does look like it's recording professional content. So then I've obviously started doing that. And the first reel that I uploaded with that new kind of 4K and HD and the lighting and stuff, that person that I know messaged me. So finally, a reel that I can't even remember what he said. Let me just quickly find it because I don't want to misquote it. But I was just like, is that the only reason you would look at my content and not because it's actually a good messaging? And I was just like, wow, okay. Yeah, he messaged me, he goes, love this because the video is HD and clear, and he had like laughing emoji. And I just clapped back. I was like, if that's the only reason you love videos and not because of the actual content, then it's a sad world that we live in. Not everyone is bothered about HD clear quality, bro. It's more about the message. And then I put my like love, light, blessings, as I usually do my tag. But I was just shocked. I was like, wow, okay. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, as we said, we're talking about relationships with ourselves and the world around us. And unfortunately, computers, social media, if you call it, they're digital, aren't they? They're either on or they're off. There's no grey area. The grey area is the details. And we've been conditioned to look perfect. And you're talking about the videos. It is important about the message to get that across. I'm not going to keep doing my eyebrows every 5 minutes, to look good on a visual video. And also when we make mistakes on videos. I did a video the other day for Instagram and I made a mistake. I cocked up, pardon my French. Did I re-record it? No, I didn't, because we're not perfect. We're not computers. We're humans. We're learning all of the time. And I think one thing that we've possibly, I won't say lost, but it's been diluted, is compassion and empathy because of the computers. We're not doing the pressing the flesh, meeting people in public. And the COVID, I think, we won't stay on that too long, had a massive impact on a lot of people. And I don't like to call it, but I call it the COVID stain. Okay. So many people were psychologically and physically affected through that. People lost the confidence. I did, to a point. I was working with clients over the phone, but I believe for both males and females, it is to keep a relationship, something sustainable. There's got to be something about that person that you love. We're not talking about the looks. And as we know, what happens with looks? They fade. You may be beautiful up to the age of a certain age, and then age starts to affect us all, whether it's a man or a woman.
Can I just interject on that? Because this is something I hear all the time. And I'm going to maybe make a little controversial opinion on that. Look, yeah, okay, look. They say sometimes looks fade. I say sometimes because, I'm sorry, there are some silver foxes out there. And like, I met this, I'm sure she must have been well into her 80s. Just yesterday, I met this wonderful woman. Shout out to Sue at Maurizio's restaurant. Again, I'm going to shout them out because it's my favorite Italian restaurant. She looked amazing. She was very wrinkly because obviously she was old, but she had dressed herself so flamboyantly, like wearing every single color, but she made it work. And I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, even with you hunched over, like wrinkly skin, all this like typical old person stuff. But I was like, you are beautiful. So as I say this now and what's coming through, like I'm hearing the voices, they're like, but were you attracted to her energy and her aura versus her aesthetic? But it was a bit of both. And this is what I'm saying. It was a bit of both Because there are some people who look better when they're older. It's like wine, isn't it? Sometimes people age better than they did when they were like younger.
Yeah. So hopefully the listeners, I'm not sort of trying to, how should we say, just put a finite description on age. What I'm suggesting is, yes, and I agree totally, a lot of people look better when they age. Okay, that's a fact, males or females. I won't go into a gender dispute on that. But what I'm saying is sometimes people rely on just looks alone. As you said, it's about energy. And we both had a conversation offline a little while ago, and we both agreed that language can lie, energy cannot lie.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you know,
100%.
that's quite important. And energy is one of the biggest things that what's everybody complaining about? Energy. They're grabbing coffees, monster drinks, whatever it is to increase their energy. And one thing is also about honest living. What I mean is, you'll hear a lot of people saying they don't sleep well. And I'll question them and say, what time did you go to bed? They say, well, Monday I went midnight, Tuesday I went at 10, Wednesday I went at 1 o'clock in the morning. We are habitual beings. You've got to have a regular sleep hygiene to get the sleep, So coming back to what we were saying, life is about discipline, isn't it? Regular actions, okay, that will help us age gracefully. We can't be burning the candle at both ends.
Very true. Very true. Um, I totally agree with that. Like, it's funny. Well, it's not funny. It's actually just, well, it is funny because what we need to do in order to live better, live healthier, and live
Yeah,
happier is so
yeah,
simple. It's so simple. We need to look after ourselves physically. We need to, like you said, put nutritious food in us. We need to hydrate well. We need to sleep and we need to manage our energy. So things like physical fitness, mental fitness, energy healing, all of those things, just for everything that we need fits on this one hand, like 5
yeah,
things that you need to do. It's simple, but yet because it's so simple, because we've got ourselves in such a state, the
yeah,
simplicity of the things that actually work is kind of just fobbed off. They're like, no, it can't be just that simple. And I'm like, it really is. If you drank enough water every day, I promise you, a lot of your fatigue will go. And this
yeah,
is, I might be like shooting myself in the foot here but this is what I show to people. I was like, I'm not doing this stuff because yes, I want to earn a living, but I'm not doing it for the money because if I was, I would be telling people, oh, you've got to jump through this hoop, you've got to have this many sessions with me, you've got to
yeah,
do this.
yeah,
It would all be about doing what my thing is obviously energy healing. But that is part of it. But I always say to every single client that walks through my door or jumps online with me, I was like, my service is not going to fix every single problem in your life. It will definitely help with a lot of the areas in your life because it's like a quite a broad spectrum,
yeah,
holistic view what I do. But just if you just did intuitive Reiki with me every week or every month for the
yeah,
rest of your life and did nothing else, you're still going to be in the same state. You might be in a slightly better state, but if you're not eating healthily, if you're not drinking enough water, if you're not going to sleep on time, 3 things that are the basis of all living, you're going to just be chasing your own tail. And the other thing I wanted to highlight there as well is just going back to that form over substance, or you said like obviously the energy behind someone. You said something, peace over prettiness. So because you
ah,
mentioned that to me, and I was like, oh, I love that, peace over prettiness. Can you just give us a little bit more context of where that phrase came from?
well, I think it's how I view life. I'm male, I'm straight, heterosexual. Okay. So, yes, I'm attracted to women. Um, I have a girlfriend, etc. Um, she's pretty, but she brings me a lot of peace, not chaos. So I joke, I have a saying, you may be pretty, but if you bring me chaos, no thank you. And that can be the same possibly for women. The guy can be handsome, but if he's bringing you chaos, you don't feel calm or secure around him.
I definitely resonate with that, Dominic, because literally the most recent ex that I've had was precisely that, like a beautiful, beautiful man. aesthetically what I find super attractive, like blonde hair, blue eyes, like athletic, toned, physical body, can dance, can move his body, was just like, yes, yes, yes. I was like fully living out my boy band fantasy. But unfortunately, that year of my life, or whatever, 9 months it was so chaotic, so chaotic. And I was like, oh my God, as hot as you are, and as much as you're trying, everything around was just like, oh, would get to a point and then something else would happen and then something else would happen. And I'm just like, no, man, like you could have just sorted this out, but you choose not to. And that is like bringing me more turmoil that I didn't, this is not what I signed up for. And also, unfortunately, there was just something lacking. And again, although once it's sort of plateaued out and everything sort of came to a nice steady kind of pace, by that time, I think my energy was so checked out and my energy just started repelling. It was like, no, like as much as you like him and you could build a really nice life with him, there was just something missing. And that was just my energy just repelling his. And it happened with my other ex as well, the one that I was with for like 7.5 years or something. On paper, everything was like, yes, 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 all good. But then again, it just sometimes, it just, as your energy expands and somebody's growing in a different direction and you're growing in a different direction, it doesn't match again. And that one was the hardest to walk away from, because I was like, but we still love each other and we still care about each other. Now we're at a point where we're still in contact. We have a cat together. I still have so much love for him and his family and vice versa. But when your energy tells you or something's off. This is why I say to all my clients, please don't second guess it, because you don't know yourself as much as your soul and your energy knows it yourself, because our brain, like you said, you pointed to your head that time, our overthinking mind gets in the way of what our actual soul, heart, energy, gut instincts, even the heart. Sometimes the heart can be like, I'm so in love with this person. I heard a very good phrase. Your mind will lie to you. Your heart could lie to you, but your gut never lies. Your gut instinct never lies.
Yeah,
What do you think?
so that's a valid point. I mean, at the end of the day, I do feel society has contributed to people being trapped in the head. And we talk about the conflicts there. Obviously, people don't realize, or maybe they do, you're still a cave woman, I'm a caveman. The only thing that's changed is this prefrontal cortex, the
Mm,
neocortex, the new
mm,
brain. The new brain is in battle with the old brain, the reptilian brain. And the old brain only wants us to survive, doesn't want you to be happy. The new brain is a decision maker, okay? And it overthinks. So there's a battle going on. Look around at some areas, it's worse than caveman times because people are overthinking things, jumping to
mm.
conclusions. If you're in your head, I generally say to people, there's psychological time and there's clock time. And I'll just explain. When you're in your head, you've got an illusion of you're in tomorrow. Most people are jumping into Saturday. They're jumping into yesterday, Thursday. They're not in this present moment, sitting down, talking or listening. That's an illusion. And guess what? Your body I'm pointing to now is always in the present. That clock time. Your body's not going anywhere. So it's the
Mm.
head that's giving you this illusion, almost paranoia of the overthinking and catastrophizing. So you are right. I would suggest that getting in touch with our body, because this is where the unconscious mind is with the heart. I used to say years ago in a talk, your heart is your moral compass. Because when you sit down on an evening, your heart will let you know whether you've done right or wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but again, that depends on listeners how they feel about themselves. Are they actually checking in with themselves? If they're in the head too much, they're not actually in the body, okay, with their feelings.
So
Yeah.
it's so true. And everything you've said is so on point. But I would also extend that a little bit further. But sometimes, they say, oh, the heart wants what the heart wants.
Yeah.
So when people get into these like relationships where they think that they're so in love and they love that person, they feed it in the heart. I had it with like the ex of 7 years, but like it was hard because I still had a lot of love in my heart for him. But
Mm.
when I had to take a step back and I was like, but my body is not feeling happy. Something is not right here. We're arguing all the time. We're just moving in different directions. But my heart was still holding on. It was my heart that was holding on, not my brain, not my body. So this is where it's not like a hard, fast rule, I think.
Yeah.
But general speaking, 80% of the time, you do need to look into your inner compass, like you said, your moral compass. I say your moral compass is probably your heart, your inner compass is your gut, and you've got to use
Yeah.
both, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got to use both. One thing is just not going to do it for everyone. The mind is there, like you said, to keep us safe and keep us protected. So we also need to tap into that as well, because we don't want to be running off a cliff thinking, yeah, this is what my heart wants. You do need to keep yourself safe as well. So it's about making a blend and a balance of all three, I guess. The other thing I wanted to touch on, and we're going to backtrack a little bit here because we've scratched the surface on so many interesting topics. We all know, and then we hear it all the time, the most important relationship is with yourself. Oh, yes, of course.
Mm.
But how does that translate really into why that is so important when, let's be honest, for most people, we do want to find our ideal partner. Okay, I say most people because some people are very happy being by themselves, and that is fine, right? We're not going to try and generalize everything. So why is it so important to nurture that relationship with yourself coming from a straight heterosexual man? Why is that so important that somebody works on themselves in a relationship?
I think the long and short of it, if people have a look into two famous people back in the day, the 70s and going forward, and looking at how children develop, from babies upwards. And there was a sociologist called Massey who called it an imprint period from 0 to 7 years of age is an imprint period. It's pure unconscious mind. And you will take values and beliefs from your primary caregivers. Okay. Father, mother, like in my case as well, grandparents have instilled a lot of values into me. 7 to 13 is a modeling period. We tend to model people and copy our parents or peers. Yeah. 13 to 21 is a socialization period. So we're learning all the time about our identity. We're forming our own identity after the age of 21. And there's something called repetition compulsion that some of the listeners may be familiar with. I think it was Sigmund Freud, the grandfather of psychology, who originally coined this, which means if you had a trauma, possibly in childhood, and also you didn't quite get on with your mother or your father, you can repeat that trauma, believe it or not, in a current relationship or situation at work or business or personal, because you want to fix that problem from 30 years ago. Because
Yeah.
whether you're a therapist or not, we are all fixers. Okay, the heart again, we want love, we want connection. So we will repeat a trauma to try and get it right. But that's impossible. So you've heard of mummy or daddy issues. We can bring people into our life, and I will say this to the listeners, attraction is not a choice. It's automatic. So, hands up to the listeners. I've done this before. Hands up who have attracted a poor relationship into their life. Suddenly they've found themselves 2 relationships in, and you've attracted the similar person with a different face, the same characteristic. It's a toxic relationship. What I'll suggest is we want validation. But the problem is, if we don't feel our own self-belief, feel centered and grounded, we're looking for it somewhere else. And that other person, male or female, can notice that. Not everybody is as kind as yourself, myself, and your listeners. They may take advantage of that, or they may be non-deliberately hurting you.
Well, this is it. I think for a lot of the time, so many people, I'd say 98% of the world is so unaware of this stuff that we're talking about that they don't even know that they're doing it. They don't even know that they're attracting all of this stuff into their life. They say, everything's a mirror. Everything is a mirror. But
Yes.
it's a hard pill to swallow. And we turn around and tell our clients, guess what? Everything that's good in your life is that's you. You did that. You've attracted it. Oh, by the way, on the other side of the spectrum, everything that's shit in your life, you've also responsible for. And they're just
Yeah.
like, what? No, I didn't ask for that. But actually, on the surface, it feels like that. I had the same sort of automatic defense mechanism when I sort of learned about this about 7, 8 years ago. I was like, no, I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for almost to be fucking driven off a bridge by my ex-husband when told him I wanted a divorce. I didn't ask for all of that shit. All I've been asking for is, to find the person that I want to do life with, right? So why have I interacted or attracted all this stuff into my life? But still to this day, I'm still learning. I'm still wanting to have a deeper understand, because as you repeat the same concepts, as you go deeper and deeper, you find new meanings for things, because now you've dealt with the surface, you've taken the surface level, and you're like, right, let me just see what this concept's about. Let's just try it out. Let's experiment with it. You heal that surface layer. So that's, wow, okay, I'm swimming in this nice pool, and then all of a sudden you come across the same concept, but somebody else is telling you about it, and you're like, oh, I forgot about that, or I didn't realize that was a thing then. Which is why it's so important, I say to people, and I'm saying this to myself as well, as I say it out loud, because I'm one of those people, when I hear something I've heard before, or I see something, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard about that. And then sometimes I like scroll through, or I'll just like switch off if it's in a seminar, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard this all before. But now I'm training myself to say, no, even though you've heard it before and you've heard it a million times, still listen, because there might be something that you missed. And
Yes.
that takes a lot of balls also to say that, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I know it. And I was one of those people. I have no problem saying it now, but I have to train myself. I have to catch myself when I'm like switching off, and I'm like, no, listen to it again. Because if the foundations are strong in yourself, in your mind, you'll blossom into the most beautiful version of yourself, because you're always learning, and you're not arrogant enough to say, oh, I know it all. I'm an expert now. I don't need to learn anymore.
Of course, and I agree totally what you're saying. Let me, all valid comments, and I don't want to negate what we're talking about, but
Mm.
I'll throw in the curriculums at school don't allow for this. We're not
Oh, yeah.
taught. We're not taught to control our emotions, to do breath work, which we may cover today, and so that's why adults on the roads, are having tantrums in the car, road rage,
Yeah.
because they don't know how to control their emotions, which could be bubbling up from childhood. Because
Oh, 100%.
you sort of, there's a phrase, and we mentioned it before, perception is projection. How you feel about yourself is how you're going to be treated. We may be chatting consciously that we're the best thing since sliced bread, but your unconscious program, which is controlling the listeners, if they want to look into this, 95% of every day, automatically controlling them, then they will bring into their lives their deepest fears, the weaknesses, shall we say, or the negativity. And until we're aware of that, we won't change anything in our life, as you said. We've got to become aware of it, because that is the biggest agent of change, awareness. So you are right. You've got to have the balls or the courage to admit that you were wrong. Same in a relationship,
Mm.
because the ego, again, which is the invisible representation of that reptilian brain, it only wants you to survive. Even if
Mm.
that woman's telling you the right advice, you may get defensive with her because you can't accept it.
Yeah.
It's about curiosity and learning. We never stop learning, but the school system sets people to hate learning. Why does the people not enjoy learning? You know, that's because of some of the people within the school curriculums and how it's taught to the youngsters.
Yeah, 100%. And I fully believe that, because I actually, not many people know this, after I finished my biology degree at university, I went on to do a PGCE, a teaching degree, um, because there was a shortage of science teachers. And they were like, yeah, if you do this, you'll get like a golden handshake. You get like 3 grand just for doing the degree. I was like, yeah, go on then, let's do it, kind of thing. Yeah, back in the day. But I I hated it so much, because it was all like parrot learning. You just repeat, repeat, and it was just designed for you to pass the exams. It wasn't actually, when I look back on it now, when I was at school, there was very little educational tools to help us integrate the learning. A lot of it was just textbook reading, copying from the board, watching a video here and there. But it was like when a video was put on, it was like just an excuse to just sit back and chill, not actually take on the content. Nowadays, I think they're getting a little bit better in including different learning styles, but still, I think the most important thing is, in terms of the education system, there's a lack of actual learning of skills that we need to survive on a day-to-day basis. I'm sorry, like, when have I ever needed bloody Pythagoras' theorem? I've never, ever in my 40 years of life actually ever needed to use that in a practical sense. What I did need to learn, or what I would have liked to learn, is how to apply for a mortgage, how to save, how to invest my money, how to adult like an actual adult, right? I don't really need to know what the freaking hypotenuse of a right-handed triangle is. I really don't need to know that. I'll be honest.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, going back to Pythagoras, won't stay on it too long, pi r squared or what have you. That's just surface level. He was one of the first people to look into, not the first, but one of the major players that was looking into sound and vibrational healing. Not a lot of
Exactly.
people know that. So they only give you so much information. And if people think this is a conspiracy, they've got another thing coming. Because why are people sicker today? Why is there so much autism about? Why are people becoming obese? Why is it type 2 adult onset diabetes, children getting it? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous in 2025. So there's something about the school system and the educational system, or society in general, that people, and I'll put it out there, a money-making scheme.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. Because I will state this now, and there are fantastic doctors and the fantastic people in the NHS, but a patient cured is not a moneymaker, I'm afraid. Okay, I'll just leave that there. About holistic treatment.
That is the sole reason that I never ever went into pharmaceutical sales. I went straight into surgical sales, medical devices, and becoming a clinical trainer. So many people start off with being drug reps. I was like, nah, not doing that. No way. But, again, we're not painting everyone with the same brush here,
No,
because
that's right.
a lot of the people who are the culprits are they're not even like on the trenches. They're like sitting up high, being the puppeteers. But that's definitely a conversation for another day. So
Yes.
I just wanted to, as we wrap up this very intense episode, so like I said, we've only just scratched the surface on so many topics. So I'd love to have you back at another time to sort of delve in a little bit more, about, and thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable about your childhood. If you're open to, at one point, to dive in a little bit deeper in that, on how that impacted you as a child, and how that rippled into your, relationships past and current, because I think that's really important, because I do have a lot of clients who are in, unfortunately, not the greatest of relationships. And a lot of people feel like it's just them. But I want to create this space for people to hear from different people, from different cultures, different backgrounds, at different levels in their life, that look, essentially, we're all the same. And this is one of the reasons I don't do video recording. I mean, I can see you now, obviously, but I'm not going to put the video on. It's because of this whole thing about the video has to be perfected. It's got to be in a fancy studio with this bright lights and stuff. I'm sorry, fuck all that shit. Like, when did radio and podcasting have to become visual? Why? Because, it's new content and people need to see it. I'm sorry, but yes, sometimes masking most of the senses and just focusing solely on one sense, that's how we're going to heighten that sense. We are way too overstimulated now, which is why we can't sleep. We're on edge. We've got freaking so much anxiety pent up in us, because everything has been designed to be like, oh, look at this thing, look at this thing, look at this thing, now do this, and now do this, and now do this. My gosh, topic for another day, people. But on that note, what we're going to do is now do a 1-minute meditation, just to bring ourselves back into the moment, into that present, into the body, which I think, again, like you said, was so important. And we do need to talk about that at a different day, why it's so important to be present. So let me help you now, everybody, to become present, come into the now moment. And then I'm going to ask Dominic at the end to let us know where we can find him. I'm going to leave all of his links in the show notes as well. But before, again, just one last time, thank you so much, Dominic. Before we do the meditation, have you got any last words of wisdoms or anything you would like to share with us before we before we wrap up the episode?
Thank you so much, Lakme. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully it's illuminated for your listeners and helped them. One thing that I found very important in my life is the TV. No television for 8.5 years. Okay, that's just my final tip, because you're so overstimulated by all of these series. I mean, I've got so much learning I want to do and so much I want to help other people. I haven't got time to be watching Netflix series. I'm sorry. And I'll just put it out there. It's almost like a sheeple mentality. Oh, did you see that? And people feel out of sorts because they haven't watched the latest bloody Thin Blue Line police series. And one thing for the listeners to think about, they can look up mirror neurons if they want. If you're watching violence and drama and anxiety-ridden programs, guess what you become? Anxious, and you may become violent yourself. All right?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for raising this. I'm like, no, I want to talk about this now. But like, let me just quickly say to people, I know people be like, oh my God, what? No TV. Can I just put it out there that for the last 4 months now, or 3 months, I haven't, I mean, I don't really have time to watch too much TV anyway. But I've stopped my Netflix account. I stopped it, and I was like, let me just see. Oh my gosh, I don't miss it.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a caveat on that. I'm like a little bit like, season 2 of Wednesday is coming out. And I'm like, it's fine. I will watch it when I'm at my parents' house. When I go up there, I will watch 1 or 2 episodes, but I'm not going to binge watch it like I used to.
Yes.
I've stopped this whole binge watching thing now, and it's been a game changer. So on that note, like, if you can't like bring yourself to be like, no way, I can't do no TV, try one thing, just try one little thing. Try giving up one of the apps. So I gave up Netflix. Honestly, I promise you, I don't miss it. I watch things on Gaia app, which is actually like fulfilling my learning and fulfilling me with the good things. And one thing I love how you said about the whole, what you're feeding yourself, that's what you become. Because I noticed something, and this is how crazy it was. When, I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's a really good show.
Okay.
It's like a comedy show, and it's set in New York Police Department. And
Is that Tom Selleck? Is that Tom Selleck?
No, okay. And can I just say, I love how you like use the thin blue line as a reference. I was like, babes, when has that even been on TV like recently? But it's okay, it's all good. But no, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is an offbeat comedy series with Andy Samberg, who, shout out to Lonely Island, one of my favorite like piss take groups. But it's a comedy. They don't even show violence on screen because it's just alluded to, but because it's set in a police department. And I watched it when it was like aired live, 10 years ago or something. And now they're doing obviously they've got it on Netflix or whatever. So back when I did have Netflix, I rewatched it with this recent ex because he'd never watched it before. So, you need to watch it. It's quite funny. So we would use that as like a little, every day we'll watch an episode while we eat dinner or whatever, as you do. But I found myself when I went to sleep, I think because I've started doing more of this spiritual work and I work in the energies that I work with on a day-to-day basis now, and it's like my norm, I found myself when I used to watch it in the evening, episodes that are funny, comedy, but they allude to, the perp was, armed robbery and it was a murder in 20th Street. They never show this anything online because it's like a family show.
Mm.
But because they talk about it, I was having really violent dreams. And I was like, oh my gosh. I had to say to my ex, I was like, I don't know if I can watch this in the evening so late. I was like, we have to either watch it, have an early dinner, which we were trying to do anyway. But I was like, I can't watch it after like 8 o'clock because that is staying in my system. And subconsciously, I was dreaming about like violence and things happening. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the only thing that was entering my system. And I wasn't even seeing it physically on screen. It was just alluded to. And that's how powerful your energy field is, and how sensitive it can be when you're not aware of it. And this is me becoming
Yeah.
aware of it. And I always say to people, awareness is if I could give one power to every single person on this planet, superpower would be the power of awareness. If we all became super aware of our shit, the world would be a different place. But anyway, like I said, we can carry on talking about this forever and an end, but I'm appreciating the time, and I would like to do the 1 minute meditation. So thank you again so much, Dominic. Thank you to the listeners. Remember to go and show some support to Dominic. I'll leave all of his links in the show notes below. Remember to download, rate, review this episode. It takes mere seconds, people, but it would mean the world to both myself and Dominic. Share it with someone who you feel would really benefit from listening to the words of wisdom from Dominic here. And yeah, tag us in the socials when you do share it. We will always repost, and we love to see people enjoying the content. With that, now, if it is safe to do so, please go ahead and close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose. Hold. And then slowly release out through your mouth. We're going to just do that one more time, breathing in through the nose. Hold. And then slowly breathing out through the mouth. And I just want us to be as still as possible. Try not to move. Just focus on your breathing. Focus on this body. Focus on the now moment. If your mind starts to wander, just bring it back to your breath. You're breathing in and you're breathing out. And this is what this present perfect moment is bringing you. The fact that you're alive, you're breathing, you're present, you're here, and you're well, and you're able to hear this means that you are a very blessed person. So just taking that into consideration, showing yourself some gratitude for showing up today for yourself. Show some gratitude for your breath, your body. And with that, taking a nice deep breath in through your nose, hold, and then breathing out. And I'm sending you all love, light, and blessings, and I'll see you on the next episode.